A refusal to mourn the death by fire of a child in London by Dylan Thomas, 1914 to 1953. Never until the mankind making bird, beast and flower, fathering and all humbling darkness tells with silence the last light breaking, and the still hour is come of the sea tumbling in harness. And I must enter again the round Zion of the water bead, and the synagogue of the ear of corn shall I let pray the shadow of a sound, or sow my salt seed in the least valley of sackcloth to mourn. The majesty and burning of the child's death I shall not murder. The mankind of her going with a grave truth, nor blaspheme down the stations of the breath with any further elegy of innocence and youth. Deep with the first dead lies London's daughter, robed in the long friends, the grains beyond age, the dark veins of her mother, secret by the unmourning water of the riding Thames. After the first death there is no other. Okay, this poem is by Dylan Thomas. He was born in Swansea in Wales. He was not a very good student at school. He didn't enjoy school at all. The only thing he did enjoy was prose and poetry. It's said that most of his poetry was written and finished by the time he was 21. So, what's this poem about? Well, this poem is about the Second World War. It's about the death of a child in London. A child who was burned to death. And it's clearly a very sad event, but he will not truly feel the real sorrow for her or the sadness of the event until it's time for him to die. And then he knows that when it's the time for him to die, he will go back to where he has come from. And he will then be in the same situation as all those who died during the war. And it's saying that death is the same everywhere. Death is the same for everyone. So this one is quite hard. Let's see. Never until the mankind making bird, beast and flower, fathering and all humbling darkness tells with silence the last breaking hour, and the last light breaking and the still hour is come of the sea tumbling in harness. I think this is saying that he will not understand the reality of this girl's death. He will not until it's his time to die. So not until the world, mankind making the bird, beast and flower, when it's time for the all humbling darkness, tells him that this is the last light, this is the end of his life, and the still hour is come, and it's time to die, is come of the sea tumbling in harness. Okay, this is all talking about going back to the origins of life, going back to where man came from. Okay, bird, beast and flower, fathering. This is where we all came from. So we're going back to the elements. When we die, we go back to the elements we came from. Yeah? And this darkness, this is before we live and after we live. Yeah? And this silence is talking about the last moment of consciousness. Okay, is come to the sea in tumbling harness. I think here the sea in tumbling in harness, this is talking about our bodies and the blood moving within our body. And it's talking about life and the still hour, then our blood will pump no more round our bodies. And I must enter again the round Zion of water bead. So I must go back to what I used to be. Yeah, this is the end of nature, and I will go back to what I used to be. And the synagogue of the ear of corn. Okay, so I'm going back to this. I'm going back to the synagogue of the ear of corn. I'm going back to where I came from, back to the base of all life. I will enter death and become part of the earth again. So I let pray the shadow of a sound, or sow my salt seed in the valley of sackcloth to mourn. So then I will go back into this, and I will become part of death again. So here he's looking at death, and he's looking at his own death, and I think this is paralleling the death of this girl, and he's thinking about the nature of death itself and going back to nature. Yeah, sow my soul seed in the least valley of sackcloth to mourn. So, I will go back to the earth. Yeah, and no sound shall come out of my mouth. The majesty and burning of the child's death I shall not murder. The mankind of her going with a grave truth. So, let's see. He doesn't want to mourn her death. Although it's a very sad thing, because this would be like a blasphemy. It would be unreasonable. Without any further elegy of innocence and youth. And I think he doesn't want to send her into the arms of death. Yeah, he doesn't want to add his tears and his emotions to the sadness of her death, because his sadness at her death is nothing to do with how sad and how unfair her death really is. And then we get to the last verse. Deep with the first dead lies London's daughter. So she is lying dead with all the other people who have died in this war. I think he's saying that her death is the same as all of these other deaths. Robed in the long friends, the grains beyond age, the dark veins of her mother, secret by the unmourning water of the riding Thames. After the first death there is no other. So I think here he's got this idea of this John Donne idea that the death of each man makes me less, and he's looking here at the horror of war and the horror of death, and her death is the same as every other death. although in the previous one she may have been innocent and young, once you start killing people, once there is violence, then these violent deaths, man has been made less, or man is made less by all of these killings. So, enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bye for now. A refusal to mourn the death by fire of a child in London by Dylan Thomas.